Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Talking Devils. I'm your host, Dave Murphy. I'm here with my partner in crime, we shall say, Mr. Scott Wootton. Scott, it doesn't look like you're in Morecambe, or Wickham, as I used to say, today. Seems pretty bright behind you. Obviously, 10:30 back home in the UK. Where in the world are you today, and why are you there?
So I'm currently sat in Sydney. Obviously signed for Wellington Phoenix in the A-League just over a week ago now. Well, a bit longer, it got announced, but I've been here just over a week. And due to the COVID restrictions, obviously Wellington is in New Zealand. You know, the club I play for is based in New Zealand, but due to sort of COVID issues and restrictions in New Zealand, the club decided, well, they had to relocate to Australia, and they picked Sydney. So, you know, not the worst. There's many, I can think of a few worse places in the world to be living at the minute.
Well, I'm absolutely delighted. You're out there. I think it's every player's ambition to play abroad. I'm a little bit disappointed that now I can't send you sunny pictures in January and say, "Hey, how's your day going?" Because the pictures you send back are much better. So yeah, I've lost that leverage now. So, but congratulations on the move. I hope it all goes well. I know it's on the far side of the world, but we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on you and your new team. And best of luck for the season. I think the season's just started over there, right?
No, so it got delayed. It's the same pattern of season as England, but due to COVID, it was quite tough over here, so it got delayed. So they play a lot less games. So we only played 26 league games, and we played 7 so far. So we've still got more than 3/4 of the season left to play. So plenty of games, and plenty to play for in the season. League's very tight, as most leagues usually are after the first few games. So we have all to play for, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, let's jump back into Manchester United. Manchester United won, West Ham 0. A very, very... I'll try and be polite here. It was an okay game. I think Manchester United have improved over the past couple of games. Brentford and now West Ham. We control a lot of the game, as you could see, and obviously Marcus Rashford, who has come in for a lot of criticism lately, including myself, about just being completely out of form, and how does he get into the starting 11. But that said, past 2 games he's come in, he scored, he obviously got the winner. I mean, there's nothing like a last minute winner. There really isn't. There really isn't. Some people want to win 2 or 3-0, but I'm a big fan of that last minute snatch that goal. He went with the very similar team that he went against Brentford. Elanga started, who was doing absolutely phenomenal. I think he's already got a goal. He's been in Manchester now, I don't know, 7-8 years. He's been there since he was 12, I believe. So he's come up through the ranks like you did in Manchester United. He's come up. He knows what it's like to play for that club. I've seen some of his posts on social media. I want to start off with something like that, real easy, real quickly. Elanga making his debut. You made your debut, many years ago under Fergie. I mean, what would he be thinking now, especially after scoring a goal after just a couple of games?
Oh, I'm sure he'd be on cloud 9. He'd be absolutely over the moon. There's no better feeling. I was never going to score a goal like he did. But he's done really well. He'll be on cloud 9, like I said. He'll be loving life. He'll be enjoying going in every day. I'm sure he would have been training with the first team for a while now, so he'll know all the players. But all the players will be welcoming him into the group. He'll feel a part of it because he's playing in the team and he scored, so he won't feel like he's a young player joining in with the first team. I think he'll feel like a pretty established first team player at the minute because he's keeping his place in the team and he deserves it with his performances. He's quick, he's direct. Yeah. He seems to do what the manager wants off the ball as well, maybe more than other players. So he's warranted his place in the team, and hopefully he can stay there for a long time. And if he carries on his form like he is at the minute, this manager doesn't seem to really take into consideration names and reputations from what we've seen so far. Yeah. He's otherwise he wouldn't have played Anthony Elanga, but he's put him in, and he's the manager's getting his rewards, and the player is repaying him, and long may it continue.
He seems to be, I've always remembered a quote from Fergie when he started bringing a lot of the young players in, like yourself, saying that they play without fear, they play without any pressure, which is kind of mind blowing to think that 1 minute you're, no disrespect to the reserves, you're playing in front of a couple of thousand versus playing in front of 75,000. You would think nerves come into it, but he doesn't seem to, and it seems to be like a trait with a lot of these young players that come up through, not just Manchester United, but through other clubs, that when they get to that first team, it doesn't really seem to faze them a lot. It just seems to be like they're out there and enjoying it. I mean, is that how you felt? Do you feel that that's how he will be feeling? That he really isn't under a lot of pressure because he's relatively new?
Yeah, maybe so. I think the thing with the crowd and stuff is it obviously is a big jump from like you say, your reserve crowds, or if you've been out on loan. But with the crowd in the stadium, that's all more in the build-up to the game. You'd be thinking, I'm going to be playing in front of this amount of people, all the attraction on social media, all the press. That's all sorts of in your mind before the game. I think when the whistle goes, I don't think that plays into it too much, whether you're playing in front of 75,000, 7,500, 750. I genuinely believe when you're a professional and that whistle goes and you're playing in a match, as long as you come with the right attitude and the right mentality, that the crowd and stuff, that's just sort of like an outside noise. That doesn't affect you too much, really, unless you've got 75,000 people booing you every time you touch the ball or you give the ball away. Then but for a young player coming through, the crowd get behind them, that won't affect them too much.
It sounds like how I treat my kids here when I come home from work. It's just noise in the background, and I try to ignore it. So I kind of get what you mean.
Yeah.
So back to the West Ham game. Anyway, like I said, we controlled it for the most part. We didn't really give up a hell of a lot. Rangnick went with Harry Maguire at the back, who has had a lot of criticism thrown at him lately. He was. Let's be honest, he was dropped against Brentford. It wasn't a thing where he was just coming back from injury. He was dropped, and then he got his opportunity to come back in against West Ham because Lindelof had a home invasion at his house, so he couldn't be at the game. And I think Maguire did very well. I mean, he did what he was supposed to do. Harry Maguire, he plays in your favourite position, centre back. Unfair criticism, or I mean, are we just looking at centre backs from bygone years and comparing him against them? And is that a little bit unfair? I mean, should Harry Maguire be the captain of Manchester United and the first name on the team sheet?
No, I don't think it's unfair. I think that's what comes with the territory of playing for Man United. The only thing I have a slight feeling for him is that it's not his fault that he was bought for £80 million. That was just the price Leicester put on him. Man United matched it. That's all out of his control. Should he be the captain? Is he the captain because he paid that much money for him? We're not privy to how much influence he has in the dressing room. If it was me, I probably would have went for De Gea, maybe, just because he'd been there so long. I felt like that would have really confidence. But look, Harry Maguire was made the captain by the previous manager. Everyone obviously gets behind him. The criticism this year, I don't think it's been harsh. I think it's been warranted. I think he's definitely had a hangover from playing for England in the summer. It could be mentally, physically. There's so much to take into account, but I think he has been below par. I think when he first come, he was solid for the club. But I just think his attributes and his makeup, when you are comparing him to Rio Ferdinand, Vidic, Van Dijk, who was cheaper. That's what the problem he's got. As soon as you think of Harry Maguire, me personally, is he better than Ferdinand, Stam, these players, Van Dijk at the minute? No, he's got attributes that you could maybe say are better, but as an overall package, no, I feel like them players are better. But that's not to say that he's still not a good player. And like I say, it's not fair on him to be compared to Virgil van Dijk. That's not his fault. He didn't say I'm worth 80 million or I'm this or I'm that. So no, I think coming out the team sometimes, Dave, that can be, obviously no player will like that and enjoy it, but when you have been getting criticised, then he'll know himself his form hasn't been what it was previous. Yeah. He'll probably feel that just even a mental break. Obviously you get the physical break where your body gets a bit of a rest, but more than anything, that mental break of you might have a couple of games where you're just like, you not that you relax because you're desperate to play.
Pressure's off.
The pressure's line. you're not getting criticised all of a sudden.
Yep.
It's all right, and then you get to watch the game. You might see things where you're looking at the game thinking, I might have done this or that. And then when you do go back, and it just gives you that fresh impetus. And, I think we've definitely seen an improved performance from him. It's 3 or 4 really good tackles on West Ham counter-attacks that just sort of killed them off.
Yeah.
And hopefully now that couple of game break or that being dropped might have just given that little bit of a kick up the backside and made him realise, get back to doing what he's good at. He's come out the final line. Yeah, he's received criticism. He's man enough and he seems mature enough to take it and deal with it. And hopefully now that's behind him, he's had a little bit of a breather, both mentally and physically, and he can put that behind him and he can kick on and be an important player in the team for now to the rest of the season.
Well, he came back into the team, as we said, against Brentford when we were 2-0 up. Rangnick brought him on, took Cristiano Ronaldo off. Social media went into meltdown because people can't comprehend at times why you would take a striker off or a defender. They just looked at the two players and said Ronaldo, Maguire, as if he was replacing him up front. It's a bizarre way to look at things. And Rangnick came out, and this is what I love about this manager. He's just so honest, and he just deals with the fallout from it. And he's honest in a nice type of way. There's a Jose Mourinho coming out and talking about players, and there's this guy, which is very, very different. He explains it well. He doesn't want to throw anyone under a bus. But he came out and he explained the reason why I took Ronaldo off was because, we were 2-0 up at Villa and we conceded 2 goals because we didn't shut up shop. So we brought Maguire on. He shut up shop. And in fact, we scored another goal when Maguire came on with Marcus Rashford. It ended 3-1. He came out and was very honest about that. Ronaldo, bitterly disappointed to be taken off. I'm not sure why the media made such a big thing about it. I would rather Ronaldo come off and complain he's coming off than not caring if he's coming off or not. I mean, what were your thoughts on that? When Ronaldo was brought off, you could see he was annoyed, you could see he was upset. And then you could see he was talking to Rangnick, and they were talking back. And he Rangnick said in the press conference exactly what they were talking about, which was him explaining to Ronaldo why he took him off. And he said to him, when you're a coach, you realize that decisions like this have to be made, and this is the right decision. Were you upset or were you baffled? From a professional footballer's point of view, you never want to come off, do you? I mean, you're not going to be happy coming off. Why is it such a big deal? Because Ronaldo does it.
Well, the big deal is because he's won 6 Ballon d'Ors. He's scored 800 goals. That's the big deal.
That's 2 good points.
Yeah, that's why it's the headline, though, isn't it, Dave? If that was Bruno, it wouldn't be half of the story. Or people in the past, let's say that was a Wayne Rooney or a Van Persie, it wouldn't make a quarter of the headlines. It's just a tactical decision from the manager. You fully understand it from Ronaldo. That's the type of character we've come to know him as he is. He wants to play every minute of every game. That's what he's done when he was in Real Madrid. Is he struggling? Maybe. He probably feels that he's still in the physical shape of a prime Ronaldo, whereas people will now look at his age and start to think about, if he can save him 20 minutes at 2-0 up. That wouldn't be a problem to most players on the planet, but to him, he wants to play every minute. The only thing I'd be slightly disappointed about is the stuff after the game. He doesn't need to be, the manager shouldn't be having to explain his decision as the game's going on. That should be done after the game in the dressing room or a couple of days' time when you get back to the training. That's the bit that I just think, come on, he knows that. He knows the cameras are going to be there. Yeah. He knows every camera's going to be off there. Can he hide his emotions a bit better and do that in the dressing room where that story doesn't get out, or the manager's not getting asked that question after the game? Yeah. It's not a surprise. Like I say, we know what type of person he is. That's why he's done what he's done.
So let's move on to Marcus Rashford. Taking a lot of criticism the last 18 months or so. We've been told, and obviously with the operation that he had, that he's been carrying an injury for a very long time. And you and I have discussed this on the podcast in the past about, from a supporter's point of view, I'm like, well, why didn't he go get the injury looked at? Is it really that much of a problem to a player? And you nicely walked us through the process of having an injury like that and how it will affect you, on the pitch as well. Marcus Rashford has come back in the last couple of games. the previous couple of games to that, he hasn't really looked himself. He's looked very down. He's looked disinterested, if I'm being honest. Obviously, social media got on his back. He came out and he apologized, which I don't believe players should be apologizing on social media, but each to their own. And now he's got 2 goals and 2 with the winner against West Ham, which nearly brought the whole house down. Marcus Rashford, are we gonna start seeing? Are we going to start seeing a new lease of life for Marcus Rashford? He's got 2 and 2 now.
Yeah, I hope so. Sure, like every other fan, I hope so. I hope he can get back to the form that we seen when he first broke into the team. When he was electric, he was raw, he was direct, scored goals. Again, similar to Maguire, there's no doubt there's been maybe a hangover from playing for England in the summer. Maybe his problems go back further than that with the injury issue. It's like you say, recovered. But 2 and 2, yeah, he seems in good form. A last-minute winner does wonders for the team's confidence. Never mind the player who actually scored that goal. His confidence will be sky high now. I'm sure he'll play the next game again. And if he scores again, then if you get 3 and 3, 4 and 4, you are really looking at someone who you can no longer say is sort of struggling. If you're getting that return in terms of his goals and his impact in games, then he's certainly turned the page. Yeah.
Final thing on West Ham, as we all know, it was 0-0 up until obviously the last minute. But halfway through the second half, we brought on 3 strikers, took off 2 strikers, and a guy called Fred, who had won a competition to play for Manchester United. That's unfair. He's played well in the past few weeks. I'll give him that. He has improved. But the point is, we brought off 2 strikers in the midfield, and we brought on 3 strikers. Martial, Cavani and Rashford came on, and we went and got the win. I mean, when we brought on the 3 strikers, it was never-ending pressure on West Ham. And then, I know we always come up with the Fergie time thing, but, it is a real thing, let's be honest. And we just kept going and kept going and kept going, and we got that winner in the end. Good management to just go, screw it, let's just throw every striker we have onto the pitch and see what happens.
Dave, when it works, it's always unbelievable management.
100%. If we had conceded a goal and lost 1-0, we would have said, why the hell did we take Fred off? He was playing
exactly. Great. Yeah, if we had 3 strikers up the pitch and the middle of the pitch was massive and West Ham scored and win 1-0, we're sat here going, what is he doing? Why is he took a midfielder on? And, it's always good when it works. But I think it was quite refreshing, really, to see him have that sort of attitude of, we're 0-0, but at home, we need to win this game. Let's go for it. Knowing that there's obviously a risk involved in that you could get done by a West Ham team who are very, very good on the counter-attack.
Yeah.
So, it was refreshing. It worked. It paid off. It didn't always pay off under Ferguson. All them years ago, he often went for games. But, if you gamble and you take that risk, you have to, what's the saying I've seen? There's no great reward without risk. We went for the risk and it paid off, and the team won 1-0 with a goal in the last minute. There's no better feeling than that. I'm sure that if you've done that 10 times, it wouldn't work every time. There will be times where you get done, like Aston Villa potentially. But no credit to him when it's worked.
I mean, I'm not really one to openly criticize Solskjaer, but I think sometimes during his tenure as a manager, when we were chasing a game, some of his substitutions were kind of bizarre. A midfielder for a midfielder, or the centre back for a centre back. It never really made sense to me that you were taking. Why don't we just bring on an extra striker, bring on an extra attacking player? This guy seems to want to just do that. I mean, he has the protection of it. Really, he's only the interim, so he knows that I'm not gonna lose my job at the end of the summer because I already have a 2-year job lined up anyway. So I think he can play with a little bit more freedom. But I was happy to see three strikers coming on, and us really going for it. We did speak briefly about Fred. I want to come on to my next topic, which is Declan Royce. He had a lot of nice things to say about Manchester United and the crowd after the game. I mean, it was published after the game, so it may have been talked about into the run-up to the game, but I only seen it after, where he said, Old Trafford's a very special place. It's always a great atmosphere. Things you want to hear from a player that your club is probably, sniffing around. Is Declan Royce a good acquisition for Manchester United? I know we'll if we were to go in for him, we'll play the Manchester United tax on top of it, so we're talking anywhere from 70 to 100 million. For Declan Royce, we all know that players are not worth that money. We spoke about Harry Maguire earlier on. They don't have control about that over that. Is Declan Royce, if we were to spend 100 million on one midfielder, would Declan Royce be your choice?
Yeah, I think he would be. I think he's the exact sort of profile of someone who Man United would have gone for in the past. England international, good age. I think he fits the bill perfectly in terms of he ticks all the boxes for me. He's a position that we need, sort of a midfield. He's not just a defensive midfielder. I feel like he's much better than I'm a huge fan. I think he was amazing for England in the summer. I think he's been amazing for West Ham. He's a captain at a young age, so he's obviously got. He's a character and he's a leader. For David Moyes to give him the armband, and he's certainly the type of player, as we've spoke about in the past, that Man United need in terms of a number 6 or a holding midfield player. If you play 2 in midfield, to play alongside, to replace Fred, let's say, in that position. He's doing it in the Premier League every week, never misses a game. He's always fit. So, as we sit here now, for me, if you're going to spend that money, like you said, with the Man United tax, I think he would be your number one target because, like I say, he just fits the profile, all the assets of what you would want from a Man United player in midfield. He fits. He can tackle. He can run. He can do box to box. He can protect. He ticks all the boxes for me.
I'm not sure whether you've seen the news yet, but it looks like Anthony Martial has agreed a deal to go to Sevilla in Spain. A loan deal to the end of the season. That's been confirmed. Manchester United, Sevilla will pay a salary. There doesn't seem to be any loan fee mentioned. A good move for him, and also, I want to throw in there about Jesse Lingard. Jesse Lingard looks like he could be on his way to Newcastle, whether that's a loan or a full transfer. 10 to 12 million is being touted. Are we starting to clear the decks a little bit here?
Yeah, it appears so. The manager now's had a few months to look and suss everyone out, suss the ability first and foremost, what they bring to the team. Do they want to be? Andy Martial, I feel a little bit, not sad isn't the right word, but I just think he could have been anything he wanted to be.
Yeah.
His attributes, his technique, he had so much going for him. But I just always got the feeling, maybe it's just him as a person, but I just got the feeling he never really looked like he was enjoying himself. And, when you're at Man United and you don't give off the feeling that you're enjoying yourself. Maybe that's just him as a person or as a character. We don't know, but I just feel like he could have been such an amazing player.
Wrong managers. I mean, we've seen sometimes that when a player goes to a club and he doesn't really sync up with the manager. He's had a couple of managers, 3 or 4 managers at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm just going to throw out the old cliche. If he was under someone like Bobby Robson, Alex Ferguson, Bobby Robson, someone like that, do you think he would have, Terry Venables even, always got the best out of some players, or a lot of players. If it was Fergie that was managing, do you think we would have seen? Because I'm under the same impression as you. I thought Martial was going to be a world beater. I really did. He burst onto the scene. He got those 2 goals against Liverpool, and he just kept scoring, and it wasn't just that. I mean, I went to see him when he came over here to the US and they played Real Madrid, in a friendly here, and he just did. The assist he got for one of the goals, he was like a ghost. He just waltzed through the whole. And I'm thinking this guy is just going to be unbelievable. He really is. And then all of a sudden, bam! It looks like he just didn't want to play. He just looked disheartened. He looked like he didn't want to be there. Is it as simple as like he just right place, wrong managers?
Yes and no. The only thing to think. He's had 4 now. So Van Gaal signed him. He had Mourinho, who you could probably say probably wasn't the right fit for how he plays. Then Ollie, and now Ralph Rangnick. So I don't think you can, some one of them managers. We could say that more of an argument if, I don't know, under Ollie, he was absolutely amazing. It didn't work for him under Ralph or Mourinho, but it's not really been the case. He's been pretty consistent in being inconsistent, if that makes sense. He's never really done it in a sustained period, and he might never get to that level. The only fear is when someone like him and his abilities and his attributes as a player, you don't want him to go to Seville, do really well, and then Real Madrid or Barcelona take him and he ends up being a world beater for them, and you think, he was at us,
I mean, we had that with Diego Forlan. Forlan who was a hero at Old Trafford because of his goals against Liverpool. But his career really didn't kick off until he went to Spain, and then he was phenomenal. He was top of the goal scoring charts, for a couple of seasons in Spain. I think this could be a really, really good move for Martial, especially when you consider that Real Madrid are really the only top team in Spain at the moment. Everyone else seems to be struggling. He has all the ability. And he could do very, very well there. I think it's an absolutely fantastic move from Jesse Lingard. The issue with Jesse Lingard is that he's from what I understand is he doesn't really want a loan move to Newcastle. He wants to, by all intentions, probably wants to move back down to London when he had his time at West Ham. Do you think that's a good move for Jesse Lingard? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs with Newcastle in regard to money and stuff like that. Who are they going to bring in? Does he want to be? Does he want to miss out on that if Newcastle go crazy in the summer and spend 300 million?
Well, I think that will be the case if Newcastle stay up, which is still a big ask for where they are. I know they've had a few really good results recently, but if Newcastle stay up, I think it'd be an exciting time to be linked, to be at the club. Obviously, we all know how much money the owners have got in comparison to others. How much they can spend with the financial fair play and all that, that's to be seen. But I'm sure they'll try and do all the best they can to get round it and give the manager as much money as possible. I think with Jesse, in terms of leaving Man United, I think the time's right. I think the only reason he probably did stay in the summer was because of how well he actually did at West Ham. Ollie and the people at the club must have been thinking, bloody hell, hang on a minute. Can't really be seen to letting, a player leave Man United who's just done that well at West Ham. If Jesse Lingard was a West Ham player, I'm sure with his form he showed, clubs like Man United would probably try to sign him permanently if he wasn't on loan from them. But it's not, like we've discussed many times with the amount of attacking players Man United have got. He's obviously got to make a decision to make of, do I want to be a bit part player and a squad player here, or do I have ambitions to really go and play and be in a first team every single week like he did at West Ham? Will he do that at Newcastle? Yeah, I think he probably will. West Ham possibly. Obviously, if he goes down there, can he hit the heights he did last season? But I do think it's time for him to probably move on now if that's what if he wants to play every week. Jesse Lingard's 29 now. He's not a young player. He hasn't been a young player. Even when he got in the team, I don't think he was a young player. He was 24, 23. He'd been on loan for many, many years before he eventually got his chance under Van Gaal. So, listen, I'm sure I'd be amazed if he doesn't want to go somewhere and be a main man, play every single week, knowing that he's gonna start every week, even if he has a bad game here or there. That feeling as a player is invaluable.
Well, he makes a good point. Spending 100 million is the issue, and we probably need full backs and another forward too. I understand that, but here's how I look at this: is that we're Manchester United, we should be easily spending 200 to 300 million a year. We should be, but we all know that the Glazers are not that type of spenders these days. I think if we've got a budget of 100 to 150 million or whatever it is. I think what we need to do is we need to address the biggest problem that we have. And the biggest problem that we have right now is a defensive midfielder. It's non-existent. It really isn't. It's embarrassing that a club of Manchester United's stature in world football, and no disrespect, but, to Scott McTominay and Fred, but they're just not at a level that we should be relying on them. And then, taking Matic off the bench and wheeling him out every other week, because of his age and the fact that I don't think he can run around for 30 minutes. But for me, if we're going to spend that type of money, we should spend it on the place that we need it most, and that is definitely in central midfield. But again, as Manchester United, we should have no problems in spending 200 or 300 million. The 100 million should be spent on a midfielder, and then we go out and spend 40, 50 million on left backs on each side, another 100 million. And, Haaland is supposed to be available for 60 to 80 million. That's in his contract. It's a clause that he has there. We should be moving heaven and earth if we want a player of his ability. He's supposed to be earmarked for Real Madrid. I think his agent will more than likely bring him there first before another big, massive move. Because if he's going to go to the Premier League, it's not going to be on this 60 to 80 million transfer. Not a chance. He'll go to Real Madrid for that, and then they'll get double, and crazy as it may seem, maybe 3 times that in 2 years' time from a Chelsea or a City or United or somebody. So, the agent, as we know, is controlling that whole situation. I can't see him rocking up in the Premier League next year on a 60 to 80 million euro transfer. It's not going to happen, because if he leaves the Premier League, he's not going to go for a lot more than what he'll come back in for in 2 or 3 years' time, if that makes sense. And that's all the agent is thinking about, So, as much as, Wayne saying the issue is spending 100 million on him, my personal belief is that is the biggest problem that we have right now, is that central midfield. What's your quick thoughts on that one, of spending 100 million on him?
Yeah, no, I agree, because what the problem you'll get is, let's say your budget's 150 million, for example, and you say, right, well, we need a striker, a centre mid, and a fullback or 2 fullbacks. You break that down. What are you going to spend on fullbacks? 15, 20 million each to give yourself enough for the midfield. Then you're not going to get better than what you've already got. For example, what was Fred? 40 million. So if you're going to spend 40 million on someone, unless listen, clubs do it. Leicester's recruitment's been superb over the years, Tielemans, indeed, and people like that. But Man United need the finished article. Man United aren't buying someone right now to come in and take 3-4 years to get to the level of an Ndidi or Fabinho or someone like that. So the big question mark with United has been the recruitment, because there is players out there. But if you sort of split the money across the board, are you going to significantly improve what you've got? What was Wan-Bissaka? He was 50 million, wasn't he? Whether people think he's worth 50 million or not is obviously a different question. But if you're going to, can you go out and spend 30 million on a fullback, and is he going to be much better than Wan-Bissaka? Probably not. Haaland, that'll be interesting, because I think he's got the same agent as Paul Pogba, hasn't he? Mino Raiola, if I'm right in saying. So, is quite well documented. He hasn't got the greatest of relationships with Man United. So, I would, if I was any, if they could get Rice and Haaland and leave any other area this summer, I think that would be huge success in the transfer market. But whether Haaland will end up at Old Trafford, I'm not so sure, due to, like you say, the power of the agent, the fact that you want to move him to club, like he has with, I think he's had Ibrahimovic over the years, and you see how many moves he's had, Pogba. The stuff he constantly leaks to the press about him, I just can't see that relationship. Even though I think the club should probably park it for quality of someone like Haaland, because I think if you could sign someone like him and he could be a player for the next 10 years, like what the club always done with the likes of Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, these types of players.
Aguero at City.
Aguero at City, David Silva at City. That would be, for 60, 70 million euros, that would be an absolute steal.
Oh, bargain. You've hit the nail on the head there with your analysis in regard to, you've got 150 million. If you go out and buy 3 or 4 players with that, are you really improving the team? You're building a bigger squad, all right. But, you hit it perfectly there by saying, are you really improving on that? You're bringing in a 40 million pound left back. Is he any better than the one that you have? And he has to be 2 or 3 times better to improve the team. My personal opinion is, if we have a budget of 150 million, we should spend the bulk of that on the biggest problem we have, and that's the central midfield. I think we can still... can we win the league with the strikers we have right now? I'm not 100% convinced of that, but we definitely won't win the league with the midfield that we have right now, or even challenge for it. So I think we need to take some baby steps there. We had a great summer last summer, in my opinion. I think Sancho it's going to take him about a year to adapt to the Premier League. We've seen that with a lot of the players coming from Bundesliga. It's taken them a while to settle, at least a season. He just needs a little bit more game time, and I think he'll turn out to be the player that we actually thought we were buying. But I just don't believe that. I don't think Haaland is going to end up in the Premier League next summer. I do believe that we should spend a bulk of our transfer on someone like Declan Royce. I wasn't a massive fan of Declan Royce, but he's grown on me over the past, since the season started. Maybe it's because I'm looking at what we have versus what we could have. But you are right. If we're gonna sign a player, he has to be able to come in and play right away, because we've spent a lot of money on players with the previous manager. 30-40 million on some players, and they haven't even played. We're talking about loaning them out. I don't understand any of that. So, Scott, to wrap it up, I appreciate you coming on, but to wrap it up, any more you want to give us a bit more detail on your transfer? How you feeling? You ready to go? When's your next game?
Yeah, so we've got I had a little bit of a niggle when I first joined, second day training, probably off the back of getting off a travel for 22 hours, I think it was, flying to time with a stopover. It's probably as a player, you get off the plane, you want to get involved straight away. So I just felt a little bit of a niggle in my right quad. So I missed the first league game on Friday, and I'll probably be touch and go for the cup game this weekend. We've got a semi-final of the FA Cup, which is basically the equivalent to the FA Cup. The winner gets to play in the Asian Champions League. So that'll be exciting. We've got to play Melbourne Victory, who are the most historic, successful club here. So that'll be a huge game on Saturday. And then, hopefully by the next weekend should be close to being 100% fit. If I don't make this weekend, then like I said earlier, we've got 19 games left. The league's slightly different here. So if you come in the top 6 out of 12, you then go into the playoffs. So there is quite a lot of differences to playing in England. You obviously don't have promotion and relegation. It's a bit more like the MLS over in America, sort of the way they do it. But yeah, it's a great challenge for me. I'm here to the end of the season. And just, see how it goes, do everything, do as best I can and help the team, and we'll see what happens in the future.
A lot of ex Pats out there, especially from the UK. Have you found your local pub? Have you found your local grocery store that's going to get you your Heinz beans and your back bacon and all that?
Yeah, exactly. There's loads actually. We're in quite a really good area where there's a lot of supermarkets and pubs and restaurants. It's really good. Actually, I know a few people, funnily enough, in Sydney. One of my best mates who was at United with Corey Evans, his cousin, who I know lives over there.
All right.
He took me out to a few of the tourist sites in the first couple of days. I've got another mate who I played football with when I was from 10 to 15. He works and lives out here. Yeah, so it's exciting. It's a great opportunity. It's a great, even just a life experience. To come and live in a city like Sydney for 3-4 months is just amazing. So I'm really looking forward to the challenge football wise and to enjoy the experience at the same time.
Well, the best of luck. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that, problems that I come across here. First world problems is living in California for the past 13 years. We still can't get a lot of the stuff that we still miss from back home. So I know if I lived on the East Coast, it'd be a lot different, probably a lot like Sydney, where it'd be more readily available. But stuff like that helps you to settle in. It helps you to put down some roots and, to not miss home as much. So best of luck for the season. Best of luck in the semi-final next week. I'll keep an eye out for that. I was up early, or up late, I should say. I think it was 12:45 a.m., just after midnight here, when your game was on the other day. So if that's kind of like the nature of when the games are on, I'll get to see more of it. So I know that unfortunately, you're in a time zone when the Premier League is on between midnight and 5 a.m., mostly 2-3 a.m. in the morning. So they're going to be difficult games for you to pick it up and watch United win the league this year. For everyone that tuned in, we appreciate it. Thanks for all the questions that we had. We didn't get through them all, unfortunately. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. If you're listening back on any of the audio selections that you have, please subscribe. And we're always glad to take any questions at all. Scott, I do have one final thing to show you. We did get this message while you were on. It is, good day, lads. Okay. Enjoying the chat. Aussie-based Man United podcast here. Definitely keen on getting Scott down the pub for the chat when he's in Sydney to talk United with the supporters club. I am going to be Raiola now and be your agent. I'll discuss this with him. We'll discuss terms. We'll discuss signing on bonuses and stuff like that. But Scott, if you want that information, I'll definitely send it on to you. But yeah, it looks like I know there's a massive following of Manchester United in Australia and in Sydney and Melbourne. So, if you see Scott out and about, give him a hello. I'm sure he'll be nice enough to say hello back. It's not as if he was. It's not as if it was the time he went to Leeds, where they were very welcoming to him in the end. So, Scott, again, best of luck. I'm really looking forward. I'm cheering for you guys next weekend. I did see that you're in the semi-final of the English version of the FA Cup. Big game, as you said. But the best of luck for the season, and hopefully we can get you back on throughout the season as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dave. Cheers, mate. Speak to you soon.
Talk to you soon.